Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar.
All right, back on SicEm365 Radio. Time to take a look at a few stories going on around sports. This was mentioned earlier by us, and not entirely off the radar, but Oklahoma has in fact won this year's softball national championship. They defeat Florida State 5-1 in Game 3. They had dropped Game 1, won Game 2 decisively, and then 5-1 today. So that's the 5th national title for Oklahoma softball, and kind of sad in a way because that actually provided a little bit of something this week as far as just discussion and people watching something different, and now that's all done for now.
They actually got good ratings.
Yeah, and the thing that there was a little bit of blowback because the last, I think, couple of games have been in the afternoon. And there's really not – ESPN has the NBA playoffs tonight. I looked at why that was a 2 o'clock start. Think about what OU did. They were the invincible, not completely, but the invincible. Lost their opening game in a stunner to James Madison, came back and had to beat them twice, but they had to win games to get there. Then lost the opening game with the best of 3 to Florida State, down in Game 2, and came back and won it again. So they kind of almost validated how good they are.
Yeah, they definitely did.
We can't beat Oklahoma.
Well, that's another championship now that's done for this year, and just a closer sign
Big
that we're
12.
Getting into the summer, and the Big 12 wins a national title. So there's another one, Baylor men's basketball and Oklahoma softball. So softball season has wrapped with the Sooners on top. The Sports Emmys came out. This is not something we typically pay much attention to, but TNT and ESPN both had 7 programs that scored 2 wins apiece. I initially noticed this just because I am a huge Ernie Johnson fan.
Yeah.
And he was one of those honored. Also, the TNT coverage of the NBA All-Star Game was named the Outstanding Live Sports Special. And Ernie Johnson was named the Broadcaster of the Year, the equivalent of that. Joe Buck, Nate Burleson, John Smoltz, Michelle Tafoya, Emmanuel Acho, and Pilar Perez were also other names that were honored as well. Ernie got the big prize. I think Acho was the up-and-comer.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had the designations for sidelines and things like that. But I just think Ernie Johnson's so good at what he does, man. You
know what Ernie Johnson is, and young broadcasters can learn from him. Look, man, if you've got big personalities in the room, it's good to be a traffic cop, and he's skilled at being a traffic cop, and he also knows how to get the most out of those guys. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can see Shaq has gotten kind of heated with the guys a couple times, and he knows how to diffuse it and make it entertaining and not awkward and weird. And he's really, really excellent at what he does. And I think sometimes maybe he would fade into the background because of, who's Ernie Johnson compared to Barkley and Shaq and Kenny Smith? I mean, who is he? But he's really, really good.
And by the way, they have a podcast. I don't know if you saw this. This was just a little bit after the national championship. Barkley and Ernie Johnson did a podcast with Scott Drew. I listened to it. It's amazing. 35, 40 minutes. It's incredible what he does. And he's a guy that I know he knows how good he is. There's an ego there, but you don't know it. He doesn't show it. And that's what makes Ernie Johnson so special as well. Did you guys see the Shaq moment? I believe it was about Kobe after Kobe passed away. When Shaq is on the set, they're kind of in those director's chairs, and they start talking about it, and Shaq is crying.
You mean right after it happened?
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's part of one of the clips they showed last night when they mentioned that show.
Yeah, I also found it interesting, remember the Nickelodeon broadcast that they did for the NFL playoffs, Saints and Bears? That won outstanding playoff coverage, the NFC wildcard game.
It was, it was very interesting the way they did it. Nate Burleson did a great job.
And that's why he was also part of the awards.
And I think it's something that they need to do. Right? I mean, what else are you putting on Nickelodeon at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon? I mean, put it on. I mean, look, if the kids are mad about, that there's football on instead, you can always flip over to the on-demand and watch whatever, silly show they want to watch. But I think it was great. I think the NFL should keep doing it.
There's 2 different leagues I never thought would be able to watch or look outside the box or think outside the box. 2 different type entities. The NFL, which they've absolutely done that, even when they went to Fox broadcasting games, and now what you mentioned, and Augusta National, with what they've done to open up their gates to what was forbidden, to what they do with the youth, what they do with the women's golf, what they do with, obviously, with minorities. Lee Elder, a part of that ceremonial tee shot earlier this year, and he should have been, But that's cool that they won with that Nickelodeon broadcast.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Turner Sports because, they're under the big Warner Media umbrella, and now Discovery has, there's the big Warner Media Discovery grouping that's coming together now. Discovery taking over basically Warner Media, but TNT or Turner Sports is also adding the NHL. So they're going to have that, but for just having basketball really at the moment, they won a lot of awards. I mean, they were on par with the ESPNs and the others, who do a lot more variety.
Yeah, they get basketball, like some random golf, and then pick a they have some baseball. I mean, because they do some baseball in the playoffs, but they don't have a lot.
No, they don't, and they're adding the NHL though, so it looks like they're maybe broadening that a little bit. But yeah, Ernie Johnson, outstanding studio host and sports personality. Joe Buck was outstanding play-by-play. Outstanding studio analyst Nate Burleson. Outstanding sports event analyst John Smoltz for Fox and MLB Network.
I love his voice. Something about his voice when he talks, and his diagnosis or analysis is a better word, is amazing.
I think he's an upgrade from Tim McCarver.
Yeah. Michelle Tafoya, outstanding sports reporter. Emmanuel Acho, emerging on-air talent.
Exploded
so on and so forth.
during the Black Lives Matter because he wasn't afraid to be honest about how he felt. It wasn't always just one-sided how he thought, and he was not afraid to get people in a room, in a studio, and discuss, in fact, I forgot the name of the show, very difficult topics that he could talk to and also have people understand.
I bet you he's about to be the new host of The Bachelor, too.
Very well could be, Very well could be.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods, there's a lot of broadcast booth kind of news going on right now. Well, apparently, Tiger Woods was wanted for the U.S. Open coverage starting next week. Torrey Pines is one of his favorite courses.
Oh, yeah.
And he's won some big titles there. And he's, of course, out right now because of the devastating, injury suffered in that car crash. But apparently they wanted him to be a part of the broadcast. They were going to, they ended up holding a news conference and discussed why he wasn't a part of it. And Dan Hicks, announcer Dan Hicks, said, "We're all thinking how good that would be. Who better if he couldn't be there to play it, to voice it and have him a part of the show? But we were rebuffed. He didn't want to do it, and I totally understand his situation." And Tiger most lately said that he's just working on his normal routines, his recovery every single day, and said his number one goal right now is just simply being able to walk on his own. So not surprising that he turned down a studio gig, but I wonder if that's in his future.
He would be interesting to hear from. I don't know if Tiger would want to do it.
Right.
To me, he doesn't
Seems like he values his private time.
I don't think he needs the attention. I never thought with Tiger it was never about the attention when it came to, it was just about winning.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, but I never thought Romo would be a good color analyst, and he's unique with what he does and he's turned out to be really good. Sometimes maybe he gets a little bit too much attention, but he's been really good at that. Sometimes the ones you think would not be that good. I think Phil Mickelson would be an incredible analyst.
I agree with you.
Although he's still chasing majors.
I think Tiger would be really good and really interesting to listen to. My thing is, I don't know if he wants to do it.
Why? Yeah, okay.
Well, speaking of sports broadcasting, the latest name that could be getting involved into sports broadcasting, Alex Smith, who has retired after his devastating injuries. Apparently, all four of the networks are interested in the former Washington football team and Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. Played for 16 years. Andrew Marchand at the New York Post said that 4 different networks are considering him as an analyst. He recently auditioned with CBS and Fox, had meetings with ESPN and the NFL Network, and apparently at least one of those went pretty well. He's apparently viewed as a number 2 or 3 game analyst if it is in fact something that he decides to pursue.
Well, we know this. He's a quarterback, so he understands and is known as being a guy that understands the game. But he's also not been afraid to give an opinion.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes you wonder why, or when he was walking out the door and blasted the Redskins or Ron Rivera, when they actually were very patient with his recovery and he got a chance to play. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and Sean Lee's also somebody that's apparently trying to get his toes into the broadcast game as well.
I think he would be fantastic. I hope he's got the voice to kind of, because you got to, that's part of the deal. You got to be able to have some sort of a voice that carries. And I think Sean Lee will. And I think he would, and again, it's just something about former Cowboys and broadcast as analysts as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, there is. So, Alex Smith, he'll probably be on your TV here very soon, and Sean Lee very well could be as well. Also, the NBA playoffs are still going on, but they've already announced the schedule for next year, at least the beginning of next year. NBA hoping to have a return to some normalcy. Shams Charania of The Athletic announced that with the playoffs running until at least July and the draft is set for July 29th, that means free agency would start at the beginning of August and will give NBA teams roughly 2 months before training camp opens up. And one of the notes on this, because they had the short turnaround for this season, and that's something LeBron's complained about and other players have been pretty vocal about. But Tim Reynolds pointed out that if this year's NBA Finals goes 7 games, which means it would end on July the 22nd, they will have 68 days between Game 7 and training camp practice number 1.
And I don't care how much money they make, and I know some of them are now making $30 million or more. There is, I would actually understand their concern to turn it around in only 2 months.
Yeah.
Most people work every 5 days a week, and you get a couple of weeks of vacation. But there are things you get. The NFL, and because of the condensed last year and a half or 2 years with COVID, they've shortened some seasons. But yet again, there is a wear and tear. I don't care how much money they make. I don't care. We hear, I would do that easily in a heartbeat. Yeah, you would, but you would eventually want to be protected, or your body protected, or body rest. And everybody needs downtime no matter how much money they make.
And LeBron James, and I'm going to wrap it up here in a second, but LeBron James switched to number 6 again. He last wore that with the Miami Heat. And so everybody's like, number 6 LeBron is back. That was the best LeBron and all this. But at the same time, he is going to have a little bit longer than whoever the 2 teams are that are playing in the finals that will have the really short, almost 2 month turnaround. So if you didn't make the playoffs, you get more of like a 3.5 month turnaround. The Lakers will have a little bit longer because they exited in the first round as well. But at his age and getting older, and, you can't just flip that switch and say, I'm focused again now. So that quick turnaround, I wonder about, especially older players like him or guys that are getting older, how much of an effect that has. But with this schedule talk that's come out, the 2022 NBA playoffs will return to its normal start date in the middle of April. Yeah. And the 2022 finals next year will end in June instead of July. So we're going to get back to some normalcy there.
I haven't even been paying attention really to the calendar, but they are only in the second round, and they're only a game or 2 into those second round playoff series. You're right. There's a long way to go.
Yep. So they're already planning out next season. It looks like the dates and things like that will be back more in line with what we knew previously. And Justin Fields, Bears, agreed to a $19 million 4-year deal. Of course, he was their first-round pick at quarterback. I just thought I'd drop that in there because I saw it a little while ago. But, that's a few things that are off the radar.
If that's good, I know we have to get the